Welcome to the Absolute Business Mindset podcast and YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we have a feature-length episode interview with Eddie Rodriguez, who's a CEO and consultant at the Franchise Tailor. He shares his insights on business mindset and goal setting. He discusses his experience as a franchisee and the importance of embracing the systems and support provided by franchisors. Eddie also talks about his transition from the fashion industry to becoming a franchise consultant, helping others find the best next life through franchising. He emphasizes the significance of mental health and the impact it has on the business success. Eddie's goal for the future is to continue helping people and spending time with his family. So if you are enjoying this content, hopefully you are. I know we've had a bit of a break for a few weeks, and I apologize for that. I was on holiday and traveling. But if you are enjoying this content, please do give it a thumbs up. Please do add any comments of anything that you want to tell me about Eddie or about what you've heard from Eddie today. And equally, if you could hit the subscribe button, that would be absolutely amazing. It really helps with the algorithm, and we would really like to start boosting that subscription side of the YouTube channel. So thank you so much for joining me today. Hopefully you're having a great day and you'll enjoy this interview, and over to the interview. Today we have Eddie Rodriguez, who is a CEO and consultant at the Franchise Tailor, which helps people understand and explore the world of franchising. Hello, Eddie. How are you today?
I'm good, Mark. Thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. We've had a couple of people with franchise experience and franchise knowledge. So it's going to be really interesting for my audience to sort of see your experiences. And I know you've had franchise businesses and now you're a consultant helping people with franchises. So I'm really excited for this conversation. The first question I ask all of my guests, the podcast is called The Absolute Business Mindset. What does a business mindset mean to you?
Well, first of all, anyone that wants to get into any type of business that's their own needs to clearly set out why they want to do that and define clearly what their goals are. Could be short-term, mid-term, long-term. Why am I doing this? And what's my end game? What do I really want to accomplish? Do I want to make a lot of money? Do I want to give back to my community? Do I want to have a business that suits my lifestyle? Make sure that you dial in to what your specific business mindset is based on what your goals are about that business. So business mindset is a strategic one. Somebody that truly thinks about what they want to do, what they want their business to accomplish, and ultimately where their end game is.
So let's just touch on goals. Goals is something very important to me. So I set goals at the start of the year and I'm just mid-year, so I'm starting to review my goals. How do you sort of structure your goal setting? Do you do short, medium, long term? Do you do it for a year? Do you do it for 10 years? What's your strategy on setting goals?
Yeah, obviously everyone has to do that as they see fit. I do my business planning towards the end of the year and create a very specific budget for the following year, line item by line item. I review them every 90 days. I think we live in a world of constant change. Business is no different. So oftentimes, if we wait any longer, the business is changing faster than you are, which is never good for a business, a proper business mindset. So I review mine quarterly. I don't touch them for the first quarter. You also have to allow a business planning that hopefully you thought through to play itself out. But after the first quarter, I review it. After the second quarter, I review it. It also gives me a good historical reference when I get to the end of the year to start planning my following year.
And has your end game for the different businesses that you've run, has that changed over the years?
Yeah, I mean, that's a broad question for me. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started when I was 28 years old. Right. I'm 66 years young now. And I've created and built multiple businesses And at each stage of my life, as with most people, you have different goals, you know, and I was in my late 30s, early 30s, I would work 100 hours a week to make a lot of money. That was my goal then. I got into my 40s and I decided that I enjoy the work and working hard, but maybe not as hard. People in their 50s and then
Yes.
people in their 60s, we all change, we all evolve. And as such, much like reviewing your business planning, you need to review your life ever so often and go, what do I want to change? What am I having fun with and enjoying? What am I not? And how do I go forward and change that? As we age, our goals and what we want in our life also change it. So the broad answer to your original question is I have changed my life goals literally every decade because
Really?
I've evolved and changed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Tell me one thing about your upbringing which reflects on who you are today.
Well, I'm a child of when Cuba went through the revolution and Castro took power. I was 6 years old and came to America with my parents. Had no idea what American football was because in Cuba they didn't play that. So culture I had to assimilate. And so I'm an immigrant that has grown up in America. I like to say that I'm American Cuban. I went to school here. I built my businesses here. So I think both the challenge of somebody with that kind of early age upbringing, my father worked 3-4 jobs for quite a while and taught me that a strong work ethic basically beats many people because you work harder and smarter. So I learned a great deal from my father, who himself was an entrepreneur. And then subsequently, the different businesses I've built has taught me so much. I bring authenticity to the work I currently do because I've created and built businesses in different sectors.
Yep.
So I see business, not just, I haven't just been in this business or in this industry. I see business development, ownership from a broader perspective, I guess. And therefore, I bring authenticity to the work that I currently do. If you're going to consult with somebody, if you're going to tell them that you're a coach, an advisor, I think it is important for you to have gone through and have experienced and built what you're talking to people about. And I think that's a distinction for me as a certified franchise consultant in the work that I do now.
Yeah, I just want to touch on the immigrant question because I've had many immigrants who have become great entrepreneurs and business owners, but there seems to be a theme, especially in America, that immigrants that came to America are very entrepreneurial and very, very good at being able to build businesses. Do you have a theory why immigrants into America often become great entrepreneurs?
Well, I can give you the real story of my father, who was the perfect example to answer your question.
Okay.
My father came to this country literally with a shirt on his back and the pants he was wearing and didn't speak a lick of English. And Miami back then, we were the original Cubans that arrived. So it wasn't like a culturally assimilated, city. He wanted to provide for his family. So he worked at different jobs, learned about businesses, focused in ultimately in the automotive industry, auto parts distribution industry, fell in love with that. And then he decided that he was working harder and smarter than the owner and knew more about how to build the business than the current owner. But at the time, he had no money. So what I learned from my father was guts and persistence. And he went out and got SBA loans and borrowed money from friends to start his first automotive parts industry. And my lesson from him was he just worked and refused to fail. So I often talk about persistence, that sometimes you're going to get knocked down. I have. most business people or entrepreneurs
Yep.
that tell you that everything has gone rosy their entire careers are most likely lying to you.
Yeah.
So, you know, having faith in yourself, working hard, and that word persistence, never give up. You know, if you believe in what you're doing and you work hard at it, that's about 9/10 of the game.
Yeah, 100%, 100% agree. And that persistence and perseverance and determination, turning up every day and doing what you need to grow your business, I think is something that as entrepreneurs, we all experience that, and we all need to keep on driving through to be successful and to grow a business. I would 100% agree. Let's talk about your first business journey, which was a 17 year business called Payco, and it was a contemporary menswear company. How did you set that up with your co-founder?
Well, we had both been in the fashion industry for a few years at the time, working for other people. And much like my father, I got pretty sick and tired of really being the centerpiece of driving the business, but not having an equity stake in the business. And seeing what my father had done was really inspiring, someone that had overcome many more obstacles than I had at the time. And Terry Wilkie, the brand, although the company, the corporate name was Payco Inc., Possibilities Are Endless Company Incorporated, the brand that I built over a 17-year period was called Wilkie Rodriguez. My business partner was Terry Wilkie Dash Rodriguez. It was a menswear brand that we sold, you know. We had no money to launch the business whatsoever. We applied for every credit card that would give us credit. We did all kinds of things to build our business, worked out of an apartment. So it was a true garage kind of business that we built up. And eventually we were blessed to have worked hard and built up a very strong, you know, global brand. We were distributing around the world and with many licenses. And so that was probably the most exciting time of my life, even when we were just having slices of pizza every night for dinner because we couldn't afford much more early on. But that enthusiasm and excitement that entrepreneurs bring early on to a business, coupled with persistence, is everything. And it you know, worked really, really well in our fashion business at the time.
Where did you get the clothes from? Where were they made?
Yeah, the clothes were made all over the world, primarily in China. Terry and I had both worked in Hong Kong and around China and the Far East. And back then, I mean, we started our company in 1987, really hit our stride doing business in the early 90s. The whole move away to make garments in China had become bigger and bigger. They were producing more quality clothes, had learned from the Italians. But at price points that were much more affordable. So all of our clothes at the time, we did some product in Portugal, we did some product in Italy, but I would say over 90% of it was in China.
And that was relatively new though. Like China hadn't really opened up in the same way as it is now to those sorts of things. You said you had experience there, but it takes a bit of courage to go into a market to make those clothes, which wasn't as well known as it is now on making clothes.
Yeah, I mean, it was an adventure. That's the word I'd use. I mean, some of the factories that we visited, I can't really describe what the bathrooms look like to your audience. And so we went deep looking for the best factories to produce our quality standards and to bring back a really beautiful product that also gave customers an incredible value. That was the proposition right there. And you know, customers were aspirational, very aspirational at the time. Big global brands like Prada and Gucci and all these household fashion names right now were starting. We wanted to disrupt that by offering a similar look and as close to possible quality, but at value price points. I went to a lot of little factories in China to accomplish that.
And I'm always interested, selling businesses. Does the business still exist, or has it been absorbed by someone else?
No, in the year 2003, I got approached and it was time for me to move on. And so I sold the brand name and I sold the business to a big public company. I became a corporate officer at that company for a couple of years, but I learned that when you're an entrepreneur and have your own business, it's really hard to work for a big corporate public company. So, that didn't last that long. I just couldn't. And so I served out a non-compete after that when I resigned. And that's where I learned about the franchise industry, with a lot of friends with big names that had reached a certain age and couldn't find executive level employment. And so it was very fascinating to me, that whole shift in my life, my professional career.
So your first business, your first franchise business was Fitness Together Studios. And interestingly for me is that transition. So you moved from New York, which you said you'd been in for many years, down to Florida. So tell me about the business and starting it as a franchise, and also that move as well. How was that as a transition? Were you moving family? You were moving yourself? What was that transition like?
Those were some times where I had to do a lot of soul searching and thinking. We had a 4-year-old daughter that literally was only 4 months old when 9/11 hit New York. We lived downtown ourselves.
Right.
So 9/11, we lived it. We didn't see it on TV. I smelled the odor in my apartment for the first month. So I know it impacted a lot of people that saw it on television. Living through that had a great impact on my life. And I don't know, a few years later, my mom wasn't feeling well. My dad was getting older. And I thought, well, let's see, sell the business, all these other life changes and things that have impacted our life and our family. And I decided to sell everything I owned in New York and move down to Miami to be closer to family and really kind of think about, what do I want my next best life to look like? So that's when I stumbled upon the franchise industry.
And was that was obviously a positive experience, but just tell me a little bit about franchising and entering in from, because we'll talk about it, you being a consultant helping other people, but you entering into a franchise. What was that experience like for me? I know you get support and there's sort of infrastructure and there's training and things like that you get from being in a franchise, but what was your personal experience being the franchisee?
Well, yeah, as a franchisee, it was a transition for me as someone that was, I was the owner and did whatever I wanted. So I tell my current clients, which back then I should have embraced a little better, that the most important reason for you to invest in a franchise business is that they've already been created. They've been perfected. They come with systems manuals, operating manuals, the support that you mentioned, technology, marketing, etc. Embrace it. When you bring it to your market, whether you live in London and operate a business there, or New York or Miami, you have to think about the local market while keeping the spirit of the protocols of a business that's already been established and validated. People are succeeding in it. So I tell my current clients, why would you want to fix what isn't broke? Talk to the current owners that are doing really great. Ask them how they do it and follow the recipe. So it was interesting to me to own my own franchise in Miami at the time. I was a fitness buff, so I wanted to channel my background experience to the kind of business culture that I wanted to be a part of. It was small, boutique-y, high-end, one-on-one personal training. My wife and I really related to that, fitness lifestyle. But getting used to actually owning your own business, but you have to be in contact with the franchisor, provide them with reports, and really kind of be faithful to the spirit of the brand that they created.
Mm.
So I couldn't put up a black wall with posters of rock and roll stars in the fitness studio, or do some major modifications to what their brand looked like. And from someone that came to from the fashion industry, I was used to evolving the brand and doing whatever. It took a little while to just go, you know what? I've invested in this business to build it because of these reasons. Kind of remember that they already know how to do it well. And so it worked out. The fitness studios
Sorry,
was
I was just going to
successful.
start. Yeah, I was just going to ask, was it a challenge from being an entrepreneur, as you say, like growing a business, thinking about branding, how to impact your brand, to then just in a way, once you've got the fitness studio and you've got their branding up, just as you talk, I saw a video that you did about trusting the process. From you running your own business and being an entrepreneur, was that a challenge to just go, I just need to trust the process? They've done it before in other areas. I know it works. Let's just trust the process.
Yeah, the answer is yes, early on, but then I suddenly remembered, why did I do this? Again, back to my goals and, planning, and what is it that's truly important to me? And I said, and when I started my own businesses, it was all up to me. I'm blessed right now. I have a toll-free number to call if I need marketing support for my franchise, technology support, operating support, someone to call on if you hit a wall in your business, and we all have, no matter what business you're in. It was very refreshing to be able to call and go, listen, I'm having these hurdles with these machines or whatever, and they either provide you with a resource or give you potential solutions. So I turned that little negative at first of, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, with the business and the franchise, to, well, wait a second. They're providing a lot of value here. And instead of fighting it, embrace it. So I did.
Good. So you mentioned about fitness. So it was a fitness studio. What does fitness and physical exercise mean to you? Is it very important?
It is very important to me. I think it's part of a healthy lifestyle, a balanced lifestyle, where you can have fun and have your nice little bottle of wine and enjoy life as you see fit. But the fit part is very important. I'm a cancer survivor. I survived cancer a couple of years ago. And so I don't take every moment that we're around for granted. And I try to really, tell people that are close to me, the carpe diem, story of make sure you make every day your best, because you don't know what's next. So it truly impacted my life. Fitness, people define fitness differently. For me, it's a balanced way of eating, making sure that I exercise, because it's proven to keep you healthier if you exercise. And I do different things now than I used to in my 20s and 30s, where I was a gym rat lifting a lot of weights. And I don't do that anymore. I have a different regimen, but I work out 4 to 5 days a week. I'll be 67 in 2 weeks.
You look great for 67, Eddie.
So yeah, not too bad.
And what's been your experience of mental health?
Again, much like fitness and all the other topics that we've touched on already, at some point or another, all of us have experienced some issues with mental health. Whether, I was going through, I don't know if it was depression, but at the same time that 9/11 hit, and a lot of people went through some depressing times that lived in New York at the time. And my business at the time was going through, what do I do with the business? I know I went through a really rough patch where I was down a lot. I wasn't sleeping the same. I wasn't eating the same. And, I guess being the macho guy, I didn't really look hard in the mirror and going, God, why am I always down? Why do I wake up kind of without a smile on my face? And so that was a mental health issue that I went through for a couple of years there. And I relied on family support and that kind of stuff. But all of us know somebody that either deals with mental health issues or has somebody close to them that's dealing with it. And I think the importance of it is, like any health issue, to address it, to not overlook it, to deal with it head on. And so I've known friends of mine that have had bigger mental health issues, that have struggled. I lost a friend to suicide a few years back. That was not pretty. And did not know that they were going through such a rough patch. That was a shocking experience for me. So I think, to tie it into business and entrepreneurship, mental health is an important part of when we decide, what do I want to do next? What do I want my best next life to look like? Include mental health. What's going to make me happier? What kind of life? Not just what kind of business, what kind of life? And then you approach what kind of business professional decisions that you make with the same thought in mind. I think a happy person is a more successful person. They're probably better at the business that they run, therefore making more money. So I'm a big proponent of lifestyle goals, and choices are equally as important as monetary ones.
And someone that I spoke to in a couple of episodes ago doesn't like the term mental health and calls it mental fitness. And that whole aspect of, if you were physically ill or you had problems with your physical fitness, you'd break your arm, you'd go to a doctor. And he said that he sees mental health as, instead of being mental fitness, and how to build up your resilience and your strength, and to be fit mentally as well as physically. So I think that really rung true to me, because it kind of put everything a little bit more in frame, rather than the black cloud of mental health. And I just wanted to touch on one thing you said about New York and being in New York, and you've mentioned it twice now. I actually think there's an element of trauma that you had going through 9/11 and spending your time in New York at that time. And I can understand why you would want to move your family away from, in essence, I remember 9/11. I literally watched it on television, just couldn't believe what was happening. And I suppose, just to not dwell on it, but just like, was the fresh start that when you moved to Florida, did that actually help in your mental health struggles, or the situation you found yourself in?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call, by that time, I wouldn't call what I was going through mental health struggles. I think I had come to a strong place in my life where the choice to move became abundantly clear to me. So when I came here, it was a breath of fresh air, not just because the beach was right there, but everything, the whole vibe of Miami is extremely different than living in New York. I mean, you live in London. If you go out into the countryside, you know what I'm talking about.
Very
it's
different.
Like different worlds, right?
Yeah,
so
100%.
Miami brought that fresh air to me, and created new optimism, and got both my wife and I thinking about, okay, what do we want our life to look like here now? We had a small plan, but I couldn't really work because I was serving out my non-compete after I resigned from the company that I had sold my previous business to. So it was a good time for that, for a lot of soul searching. I have found that people that definitely soul search tend to be mentally fitter, to bring up those words that you were bringing up. People that don't look in the mirror at times and just keep going and going. And I know for a fact, after what I experienced post 9/11, that it is important to soul search and to think about your life. And, are you happy? Are you making people around you happy or miserable? And what are you going to do about it? So Miami became a real kind of antidote at the time. It was fun and new and fresh. And I felt like I was, even though it was the city I grew up in, I hadn't been in it for a long time. And so I felt like I was on vacation the first year I was here. So it was nice.
Okay. Right. Let's talk about you being CEO of Franchise Tailor. So why did you get involved in that side of franchise, and what's your role at the moment?
Well, at the time, I was one of those people that I didn't know what franchising was. I thought it was McDonald's and Kentucky Fried Chicken and Pizza Hut, right? Most people today, believe it or not, still think of franchises in those terms. But at that time, when it was towards the end of my non-compete, I had a lot of friends in the fashion industry with incredible resumes, president of major companies, CEOs, like design directors, and they could not find executive employment commensurate with their pay grade experience. What do you do unless you have enough money put away in the bank where you just go, you know what, I'm just going to go sailing or whatever the rest of my life, or playing golf?
No.
Well, you hit a crossroads, and it's a difficult one because you know how accomplished you are. You have all this experience, yet no one's calling you back. At the time, I didn't realize age discrimination had started to raise its ugly head, where previously people's experience and age was a positive, had started becoming a negative. They're too old. They're out of touch. They don't know about social media marketing. Whatever. It became a negative. And a company that found me on LinkedIn. I hadn't done much work on LinkedIn, but I was out there, right? And reached out to me. And that's where I really dug in and learned, wow, all these different businesses in any industry you could possibly imagine, all kinds of businesses. I could learn about new ones, and I could help not only friends, but people that I knew were struggling about, I'm sick of corporate America, I want out, or I want a second income stream so that I can transition out of corporate America. So I found it compelling for myself at the time, because that was a choice I wanted to make. I wanted to do good. What can I do to better help people? For years, I've been like making nice clothes. Okay, that's all nice, but I shifted into, it seemed kind of frivolous to me post 9/11. And I just wanted to help people. So I learned about franchising. I love it today. In essence, that's what I do. Every morning, I'm looking at my whiteboard. It says, find somebody their best next life today. So what I try to do is truly help people, reflect, who are you? How do you want to challenge your background experience and life love into a new place to maybe make you happier? And that's what I do most of the time. I also help successful people that have local businesses but want to grow it nationally. I help them become a franchise. So those are the two services I provide.
So I'm just interested, do you, I know the answer to this, but I want to ask this for my audience. Do you need to know the industry well that you're going to move into, even if it's not something you've got past experience on? Do you need to have a passion or a previous knowledge to be able to make a franchise work?
No, the direct answer is no. Now, if you work with a certified franchise consultant like myself, who are really trained to listen and understand what you want to do, then what we do is work closely as a coach to go, tell me about your skill set. What are you truly good at? What are you not good at? What do you enjoy doing? What do you not enjoy doing? And tell me what you'd love to do and your dream of dreams. When you close your eyes and think of, God, I'd love to build this kind of business. So our job is to try to help people channel all their goals and aspirations into a new professional life of business ownership through franchising. So the beauty of franchising too is, unlike jobs, a job is posted in a place. Someone's looking for a design director in London, England. That's who the job is. In franchising, when I work with people like here in America, somebody might live in Miami, but is dying to move to Dallas, Texas, because their daughter just got married and is moving there. So they'd like to start a new life there. Well, you can develop your new franchise business anywhere you want. So it allows you financial freedom, financial independence, personal freedom, and comes with a ton of support. You're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So that's really kind of the, I don't know, 20,000 foot description of franchising.
And just for any of my audience that are thinking about, after hearing you speak about franchisement, how much investment of your personal money do you need to put into the franchise?
Yeah, we treat every single client differently. There are really good franchises that are not that expensive. There are some that are very expensive, but it depends on what the client wants to do. There's two costs associated with franchise ownership. First is the franchise fee. That's what grants you the exclusive right to operate that brand in your exclusive territory, and it comes with all the intellectual property and support we've discussed. Those are usually between 40 to 60,000 US dollars, one-time fee over the life of the franchise agreement. And then you're on board. You're basically their partner. And there's onboarding and training, and they help train you to give you your best chance of succeeding, because if you do, they do. Subsequent to that, you have operating costs like any business, whether it's my business, your business, or anybody's business, has operating costs, you know, whether it's marketing or staffing or whatever. So then you have to budget for your operating costs. On the low side, a total investment between franchise fees and operating costs for year one, typical investment is around 100,000 US dollars. We have franchises in our system that require over $5 million in an investment. So it depends on each client.
And talking about the other side, because often we talk about people joining a franchise and how it can help give you freedom, financial independence, or financial freedom, those words. But you said earlier on that you also help companies that want to grow through a franchise. Let's just talk a little bit about that, because there might be some of my audience that are thinking about potentially franchising their business. How do they do that, and how do you help them?
Great. I met with two really wonderfully smart, creative ladies here in Miami yesterday. They both have great professional experiences, but now they were new moms, and they're a little bit older, right? But started a kids lifestyle business here in Miami that went from one shop to two shops to three shops, all doing very well. So they validated their business. They're like, wow, someone's really liking what we're doing here everywhere we go. And so they found me as, well, you know, seems like Eddie's the one to talk to here in Miami. I met with them, and they dream of having their kids' business all over America. How do they do that? Well, if you franchise your business, you're using somebody else's financial and human capital to build your brand and your business on a regional and national basis. It's still your intellectual property. It's your baby. You created it. You built it. So creatively, you still own the brand from that perspective. And then you license the rights to build that business in other parts of the country. You still have to support those franchisees, but you get monthly royalty revenues based on their sales. So it's pretty passive income while your brand continues to grow. So these three ladies could be, you know, they own three shops in the Miami area, and within 2 years, they might have 400, you know, businesses around the country. I've seen that happen in that short period of time by franchising their business. So we help people. It's a process. It's a legal process. Right. Our group puts together systems manuals, operating manuals, marketing manuals. We identify the niche. We really try to help people position their business to become a successful franchise. So we do that as well.
Amazing. And so what's the plan for the next 2 to 5 years for Eddie? Have we reached a new decade? Are we going to realign yourself? Or so what's the plan for the next 2 to 5 years?
I want to become an even higher level pickleball player than I am now. That's like a real passion of mine.
Okay.
My daughter's 22 years old and about to embark on her own fashion career. The apple didn't fall far from the tree. My wife is also in the fashion business, and that's where my daughter is. So my plan is to spend more time helping my daughter determine what she really wants to do and what's going to make her happy in the fashion arena. and whatever help I can guide her on. The part of the professional life that I currently carry on, at my age, I always say I'll keep doing what I'm doing until I hate doing it. And I love what I'm doing and I enjoy it immensely. I meet a bunch of nice people, and I have, who the heck sends handwritten notes? On my whiteboard, I have about 6 handwritten notes that I've kept from people that have thanked me for helping them find this new professional life that they love. They've never been a business owner, and now all of a sudden they have this freedom. Oh my God, I can take Fridays off and go see my son play soccer or whatever. So that's been brought a lot of joy to my life at this point of my life. So, I mean, those 3 things are major goals for my going forward, as I'm about to get 1 year older in 2 weeks.
Congratulations.
My life, my enjoyment, pickleball is one of the things. I also bike ride a lot. I work out a lot. I love to stay fit and active. My daughter's everything to me. So we only have one, and she is absolutely spoiled, guilty. And, you know, my professional life, as long as I keep enjoying what I'm doing and I'm adding value through my Forbes Coaches Council membership, the affiliation in the franchise group that I'm currently at, and I help people find their best next life, I'm a happy man with all those, you know, on the plate.
Well, I think that's an aspiration for all of us, for what we're looking to do in business. Look, we're coming to the end of the interview. I ask the same 6 questions to all of my guests. They're quick fire questions. They don't need a quick fire answer. The first question is, what's the best decision that you made?
To stop fearing the unknown. When I started my men's clothing business years ago, and we had no idea how we were going to finance it, how are we going to afford it, what we were doing. We knew what we wanted to do. And I learned that if you believe in yourself and you believe in what you're doing, you work hard and you persist at that, you can accomplish. So that decision to move forward and remove fear from, no, maybe we shouldn't do this, oh my God, what if we fail, was the best decision I've ever made.
How did you manage? Because we, as entrepreneurs, we often have fear. And I was talking to a coach earlier on today where he helps imposter syndrome and sort of doubt and fear. How, as an entrepreneur, when you were doing the fashion business, how did you overcome that doubt, that fear, that imposter syndrome?
Well, it didn't cost me a long time. I'm a kind of a serial gambler. I am an entrepreneur. You know, the fear was, I was a relatively young guy. I did not have a lot of money. Whatever money I had, I put towards this, and then I borrowed a lot more than I should have. And so that fear of failure, you know, and as soon as we launched the business, and even though we had no money, we lived a very Spartan life in New York City at the time. I had a little tiny studio apartment that in the kitchen, I could open the refrigerator, wash the dishes, and cut myself a sandwich literally without moving 2 feet. It was that small. And those were the best times of my life. They really, really were. The getting up at 3 in the morning with a new idea and what I'm going to implement with the business. So for me, it didn't take me long to let go of fear and embrace like this passion of like, we're going to make this happen. We're actually going to make this happen. And, you know, it's for most entrepreneurs, year 1 is exciting, but scary as heck, because you hit roadblocks, and we did so, but then we persisted and it was a lot of fun.
Amazing. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
When I started that same business, an older mentor of mine who is still around at the lovely age of 94, we went to a lot of people that had a lot of experience in business ownership in the fashion industry, and we got so many opinions. And the best one was the simplest one. We went into his office. He was the president of a very large clothing company in New York. And we just talked and talked. There were a couple of young guys that thought we had the greatest idea, ever invented in the history of the world, and we were going to become rich and all of that. And he just sat there and listened to us for, I don't even know how long at this point. Had to be an hour without saying a word. So we were done and there was silence. And I went, Norman, what's your advice? He goes, well, did you notice that there's a guy right down the hall from our offices here? I said, of course. He goes, he's my competitor. Do you know why I stay here later at night? Because he works hard. So one advice, outwork your competitors. Your chance of succeeding are greater. That's the best advice I ever got.
That's amazing. Maybe you'll mention him again, but who was the person that helped you most in your career?
Oh, dear God. My father. My father was a dear inspiration to me. He was extremely motivating at the time because he had gone through it. And so he was really supportive and loaned me money that he didn't really have a lot of, and was a sounding board. He had built his own business. And in business ownership, there are principles to apply to any business. I've learned that even more so now as a franchise consultant. So I really relied a lot on him and his sage advice. And I knew how much he had persisted and how hard he had worked. So in times in New York where, wow, we were like, how the heck are we going to make it? I can't even pay the rent next month and all of that. I would call him up and he would just give me a stronger backbone. And I don't know if that's a good way of describing it, but literally, he literally would give me strength, when you were like, oh, dear God. So how do I tell the wife that we don't have money to pay the rent next month? But that's my answer, my dad.
Amazing. Tell me about a regret that you have.
Wow. A regret that I have. Probably not spending more time with people that I've lost over the last few years. And we all always use the I'm too busy kind of thing. And then someone that you're close with passes away, they're no longer there. So I regretted with some people in my life not really focusing on spending more time because they were special to me. But I think we all take for granted that our loved ones or our friends or people that are important in our lives are going to be there forever. They're not. So that's probably my one and only regret.
Thank you for your honesty. It's not an easy question, and I really appreciate you delving deep for that. Next question is, what are you most proud of?
Well, the cliched answer for me would be my daughter, but she's the best design I've ever done in my fashion career. And it's been the most rewarding work I've ever done with I've built multiple companies, still have a company I'm building. Building her into the incredible human being that she's become is by far the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Amazing. What does legacy mean to you?
My dad, God rest his soul, passed away 3 years ago now on 9/11. I have lots of bad 9/11 memories in my life. And on his tombstone, my brother and I thought, what should we put? Dad was amazing. And it just says, to a good man, love your sons. So I hope my legacy, whether it's my kids or people that have known me, would just say, wow, he was a really good man. That's it.
Amazing. And lastly, if people want to reach out to you about franchising or about anything else, where can they reach out to you?
Pretty easy. Eddie, EDDIE, at the Franchise Tailor, where you take your suits to look nice on you. Tailor, Eddie the Franchise Tailor. Please go on my website. All the contact info in there. A lot about me and franchising, thefranchisetailor.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, Eddie. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much.
Mark, thank you. I enjoyed it.
Great.
I really hope you've enjoyed that content. It's a really fascinating interview that I've done there. So please do, if you are enjoying this content, please do give it a like. Please do give a subscribe. It'd be really good to boost the subscriptions. It really makes a difference to the algorithm in YouTube. So thank you for that. If you do hit subscribe, hit the bell icon and you'll get all of the content. You'll get notified when all the content is available. Thank you so much for your time. It's really appreciated. Thanks a lot.